on the SharkBite, which questions did we want to see? Go overhead questions about. The second one, okay. Any others? Three. And for the future, I may have said this in the past, so I don't remember. If, while you're working on SharkBite, you want to try these in Desmos, go free to do that, because many of these can be solved using Desmos. Right? 2 is not one of those. You have to know what this is talking about. Is the following set of ordered pairs a function? So if we have repeating x's that go to different y values, then it would not be a function. But in this case, we have different x values, so this is a function. Questions on that one? For number 3, evaluate. You're taking whatever it equals and substituting it for all the variables. So x equals -5. You're going to put that in for x. And then simplify. Be careful if you're doing this by hand that you make the -5 have parentheses and put the square on the outside. Otherwise, you're going to get a negative instead of a positive. But that answer should be 47. You could have also put all of this in the calculator into Desmos at the same time. Questions on that one? And then on 4, domain and range. So your domain is your x values. Your range is your y values. Because this is not a continuous function where you could like draw a line and connect them, it's just random points. You have to make this a list of numbers, least to greatest. So for domain, that would be -4, -2, -1, 1, 3. This one on the end is a curly bracket, and then the three on the side. The range would also be least to greatest, but for the y, so -4, 2, 3, 4. With no repeats. So even though it has 2 points at 2, you would only put that once. Questions on that? Before we get into our notes for today, look at your course calendar. I want to mention a couple things. First, you'll see that these next 2 days, today's Khan Academy quizzes and Tuesdays, are all due on Friday. So if you go up there today, there are 3 from today that are due on Friday, and there will be 2 from Tuesday also due on Friday. So I would not wait until Tuesday where you have 5 to do on Friday and then you get overwhelmed. I would definitely go ahead and do those 3 that you could do from today's lesson before next week, so you have less to do next week. Next Thursday is our first flex day of March. Usually we do flex day after test day, but we already did 2 flex days in February, so we have to March. So if you haven't finished your tests, need to work on Unit 5 retake stuff, help on Khan Academy, any of that stuff, you can work on that then. But I would not wait until next Thursday to do that. If you can come before or after school next week, do that so you have less to do on Thursday. So you'll have Khan Academy quizzes due basically each Friday for the next 3 Fridays. And then our next flex day is 3/14, which can also be used as a review day. Quiz is the 16th. Test is the 20th. The quarter ends on the 31st. So it is my goal to get those graded as soon as possible, get them back to you as soon as possible, so you have a week and some to retest those if need be. That is the last thing going on marking period 3. Questions on that? Keep those dates in mind. As always, check Canvas. Make sure you're getting announcements, all those things, so you're not surprised when those things come up. Everyone should have these notes in front of them. As always, do better than you did last unit. Pay attention more if that was not you last unit. Sleep less. Be on your phone less if that was you last unit. So last unit we talked a lot about factoring. We didn't say this, but we had a bunch of quadratics, some cubic functions, but a bunch of quadratics where we were finding factors for. That was our whole goal last unit. This unit is taking it a step further. So in Algebra 2, those of you going on to that, you'll do solving by factoring, where you do what we just did and some. We're not going to do that part. We are going to find zeros or roots, but in different ways. In Algebra 2, you'll have more ways. We're only going to talk about some of them. So the first way is the square roots method. Where you'll be given something that looks like this. Usually you won't have 3 terms, or if you do, some of them can be combined or something. You won't have like an ax squared plus a bx. You won't have that term. So this only works when you don't have that bx term. We are going to isolate. What does that mean? Yes. So get the x squared by itself. How would we do that for this? Mm-hmm. Both sides. So we have x squared equals 49. Then take the square root of both sides. So this is something that you may have seen pop up on the variation tests. There was a question, you had to take the square root of both sides, and one of the answers was plus or minus. That really comes into play here. When we take the square root of anything, yes, we know the positive, but because 2 negatives also make a positive, we have to deal with the negative as well. So when we write our answers, I'm going to write this here. This is going to be plus or minus 7. Because positive 7 times positive 7 would give us 49, but negative 7 times negative 7 would also give us 49. So you have to deal with both. If you miss one, you're going to be missing answers. Right? But that's not the final way to write our answer. We're going to write it in set notation, which is with curly brackets. So you write it one of 2 ways. Just how we have it up here, or you can separate it. If you separate it, it has to be least to greatest.
So what's the right way to do it?
Either of these is fine.
So it has to have
It does have to have, yeah. So it has to be at x equals curly brackets. It's just, if you have the same number, positive, negative, then you can just write it as one combined, or you can separate it, doesn't matter. You'll see that some of these won't be that. Questions on that process before we continue? It's called plus or minus. Alright, so let's do a few of these. So with number 1, same process. Add 16 to both sides. Take the square root of both sides. The square root of 16 gives us what? 4. So we can go straight into our answer and do plus or minus 4 or negative 4 and 4.
Does it matter what if the negative comes first and before and negative 4?
Least. It always has to go least to greatest. Chris.
Is it also fine if you just do x plus or negative 4 instead of the bracket?
So you have to do the curly brackets as part of your answer, your set notation. Let's do one more like this and then we'll jump to something else. So 2, how do I start that? 100, both sides. The square root of 100 is 10, so that would be, how would I write that answer? Okay, so you can do negative 10, comma 10, or plus or minus 10. I'm not going to write this out every single time, I'm just showing you that both work. Now, if we were to do 3, because this is different, because we're adding now, so opposite, we would subtract. If we go to take the square root of this in your calculator, do that. Square root of negative 25. Those of you who don't have your calculator should probably go grab it. Make sure you have a negative. And if you aren't sure where the square root is, it's in blue above x squared. Anytime you try to take the square root of a negative number, you'll get this. You cannot. Not until algebra 2, anyway. You talk about imaginary numbers. So when you get something that has a negative inside the square root, your answer is no solution. That is the only time you don't do the brackets. Great. If there's a negative inside the square root, you cannot do that. It's no solution. I mean, you can, not in this class. In this class? You can't do it in this class, correct. In Algebra 2, you will be able to do it, yes. Oh. You're going to learn about imaginary numbers. Right? So be mindful of that. Let's do some more. Number 4. Now it's a little different. Same process though. Get x squared by itself, subtract the 7. Most of these will come out to a nice number. Some of them will not. We will deal with that in a second. What would your answer for this be?
Negative 9 and 9.
It's right above the x squared, so second x squared. For number 5, if we start solving this, what would the answer for this one be? No solution, because you have that negative. Now, we can't assume that until we've isolated it, so make sure you do that first. Like 6, it has a negative, so maybe we're thinking it might be no solution, but we add 5, and it becomes a positive. So we find. What would this be?
Negative 1.
how would we solve that? Multiply what?
3/4.
Not 3/4, but
4/3.
there you go. And what would that give us? A fraction. So then our answer would be
Plus minus 4.
plus or minus 4.
How do you get a fraction calculator?
Alpha y equals,
Just 1.
and then the first one. For 10, what would we do?
Yeah. 5. And then
Multiply by,
10. Okay.
multiply
It's
50
one-
by what?
yeah.
By 2.
So 1/5.
You put the over 1, it's not necessary. So our answer would be do we need to see or want to see any of the ones that we skipped over before we go on to the back? Mm-hmm. Anytime you have a fraction, you can either divide both sides by that fraction, but your calculator doesn't like that. So what it's really doing is taking this, flipping it, and multiplying. Great. On the back. Sure. Let's do 15. How would we start that?
3.
Oh, I did that wrong. That may actually work out. Oh yeah, that's okay. I'm trying to find one where it wouldn't work out to be the same, but that's okay. So our answer would be
8.
plus or minus 8. Also, just thinking about it, whoever had for the factoring test something about 16 with different of squares, a lot of you put 8 and that was wrong. Keep that in mind. 16. How do we start that? 16. And then divide by 9. So here, this is different because these won't simplify. But if both pieces of the fraction are perfect squares, if you're not sure what those are, think about 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, keep going. If I take the square root of this is the same thing as me taking the square root of both of these individually. So it would be plus or minus 4/3, yes. Let's do the next one.
So fractions can be an answer.
Yes. So no solution can be an answer. Fractions / decimals can be an answer. Whole numbers, negatives can be answers. Yes.
Why did you put 2/16/9?
Here.
Yeah.
So I'm showing you that when you take the square root of a fraction, it's the same thing as taking them individually.
Okay.
You don't have to do this part as long as you know that part.
Okay.
Right. So for 17, how would we do that?
Add 1.
We have 4x squared equals 25. Are these both perfect squares?
Yeah.
Yes. So 5 and this is a 4. So x equals plus or minus 5 over 2. Is this one different? Do 18. Still divided, but it is going to be no solution. Not because 8 isn't a perfect square, but because it's negative. Still show that you attempted to take the square root, but you know that that would be no solution. Okay. So sometimes you won't get perfect squares. In Algebra 2, you'll learn how to actually simplify your radicals. We're not doing that. We are just going to take whatever decimal we're given. So for 19, it's already isolated. If you take the square root of 19, you're going to get a decimal. But you have to do it twice, and I'm going to show you what happens. So you're going to get the positive version. You also have to put a negative in front. And do the negative version. So for now, we could still do plus or minus, because it'll be the same. And I would say do 2 or 3 decimal places. More is fine, less is probably not. I'll rate 3. And it can be rounded to the second or third. So sometimes you'll get actual fractions from whatever, sometimes you'll just get decimals. Sometimes you'll get fractions or decimals by accident, so be careful with your math. If we were to do one like 20, same process, add 41, take the square root of both sides. What would that decimal be?
6.4.
We'll do one more like that, and then any others you want to see you go over. So let's do 22. Add 1.6 to both sides. Divide both sides by 2. What would that give us?
63.
When you take the square root of both sides, what is that? So as long as you don't let the decimals and fractions deter you, you're going to do fine. Look at some of the remaining questions, 23 through 30. Which of those you want to see, go over, have questions about? Did you both say something? Okay. Any others? Okay, we'll do 27. If there are any others, then feel free to shout them out. You do a couple different things. So yes, you could do that. You could also get rid of the fraction by multiplying it to both sides. So we could do both and see what happens. You may need to do this in more things. So I'm going to multiply this first and then do it again where we distribute and see what happens. My go-to is getting rid of the fraction, so I would multiply it on both sides instead of distributing it. Because then these would cancel. The inside would come out. That's 24 over 3, 8. And then we end up with nicer numbers. Change to what? That's if you're dealing with absolute value. So, no. Which we will do later. What is that, 25?
Yeah.
So what is that answer? Plus or minus 5. So sometimes it looks complicated and you end up with nice answers. Sometimes it looks simple and you get complex answers. I'm going to write the same thing down here so we can do it like we were distributing. If we distributed, what would happen? I don't know what that is. You end up with something that looks like this. It's not nice, but you still have to work it. So add 51 fourths to both sides. And then you would still have to get rid of the 3/4 by flipping it and multiplying it. But these fourths would cancel and this would become 25. So it still works out. It's just more fractions if you do it that way. Any others we want to see, go over, have questions about? Okay. Okay, so how would we do 28? Subtract 3. 6x squared equals 384. Divide by 6, what is that?
64.
Okay. Is that a perfect square?
Yes.
Yes, so 8 plus or minus. Any others? I meant to write these on the board and I will. So I would use the rest of class time to, one, get all 3 of those Khan Academies done. You have me, I'm here to help. There are 3, they're basically all the same thing but different. So I would say do the one, I'm about to mess up the names. Oh, and I have to show you one more thing before I let you practice. I would say do the one with steps first, then the strategy, then the intro. because it progressively gets harder. The steps is basically done for you. You're just putting them in order. The strategy is so-and-so did this question wrong. Where did they make a mistake? And then the last one is you solve it. So I would do it in that order. But before you do that, if you would like to double check yourself, so not as a way to use this to find the answer, but do the work and then double check yourself, you can put these into Desmos. So this is one we did, x squared equals 19. It will give you those decimals. And that works for all of them as long as you put in everything. So if I chose 3x squared equals 432, it would also tell me what those are. The no solution ones are the only ones it won't. So if you type in something and no matter how much you zoom out, there's nothing, that's probably no solution. Okay? So definitely use that to check yourself. Check yourself. Still do the work so you know how to do the work. Let me know if you have questions or need my help. Use this time wisely. After you do Khan Academy, if you want to finish your test, then you can come see me about that. But do Khan Academy first.